Tim, welcome to the Accordis podcast, Grow Healthy, Help People. I'm excited to talk with you today. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from Ridgefield, Connecticut, outside of New York City.
Okay, how far is that from New York?
We're about 50 miles. We're kind of up in the woods, but
Okay,
close enough. Close enough.
close enough to get the benefit, but not to have to deal with all the hassle every day.
For sure. For
That's
sure.
great. So you lead Generous Life. I love looking at your resume or reading about you on your website. You've done a lot of other nonprofit type work over the last couple of decades, I guess. Tell me a little bit about Generous Life and specifically what you guys do at Generous Life. Then let's dive into some of your history.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, Generous Life, we are essentially a community of faith driven, generous leaders. And we create safe places and spaces for people to connect and talk about wealth and giving. And, there's probably three things that we do to do that. First, we're going to connect high impact givers to high impact organizations to change the world together, right? And we're going to also care for the soul of those generous leaders. We've seen too many people burning out, on generosity, feeling like they have a target on their back. And so we think community is the antidote to that. And the last thing that we do, we kind of connect and curate a generosity ecosystem, right? That's everything from givers to nonprofits, it's givers to advisors, it's peer to peer, and so we are kind of that hub and spoke to say, Shane, what's God calling you to in this season? How can we help? And we kind of go from there. So
That's great. A bit of that is like content. Is it one to one nurturing, or is it more here's education for financial advisors, or is it education for givers? Tell me more.
a lot of our format is going to be like a panel discussion around a certain cause sector, right?
Yeah.
So it could be clean water, it could be education, it could be anti-trafficking. But we create space around it's not just, hey, come learn and then leave. It's come learn together and then connect with peers, people who opted into that conversation, said, I'm interested, I'm either curious or I'm passionate, I might already be involved, and I'm really engaged with one of these nonprofits that we're highlighting. But our heart is that those givers would connect to each other and then walk it out in friendship and partnership.
That's awesome. I love the term like positive gossip. Let's get around. Let's just talk.
Mm,
Let's just talk
love
about
that.
what's going on, what God's doing, what spaces are exciting. A donor who's giving you something, they've already indicated their heart is connected to that thing. So who better to help spread the news about that ministry or organization than somebody who's already given? They can tell somebody else and bring them along the journey.
No, they're the champions. They're the best advocates for sure.
I love that. I saw that you worked for NCF, National Christian Foundation. Is that right?
I did. I did.
Yeah. So you've been in this same space for quite a while. Did you worked for, well, let me ask you, instead of telling you about yourself, how about you tell us about yourself? So give us a little bit of your, from early days and your nonprofit journey to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, I started about as early as you can. I started with Young Life, working part time in college and then full time as soon as I graduated, and spent almost 20 years working with Young Life. And I know a lot of nonprofit folks listen here. I burned out at 40. That's part of my story for sure. And, we can talk about that more if you want. But I think, then I went to NCF, big jump, right? Going from community sharing the gospel with teenagers and
Yeah.
launching new
All of
ministries.
the energy of young life to more institutional NCF.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's so many things when I learned all that NCF could do for generous people. I was kind of like, where was this the last 20 years? I had no idea what was possible, right? So now it was kind of flipping the other side of the coin, going, how do we power more strategic giving in the Northeast? How do we see,
Yeah.
the vision was, how do we get 100 million new dollars to enter the kingdom from this part of the world to change lives? And so it was great. But then our office actually shifted, and we went from focusing on a donor advised fund strategy to a community strategy. And that's when we became Generosity New York, which ultimately, when we went multi site, became Generous Life.
Okay. So Generous Life is kind of an iteration of NCF growing and morphing.
Yes. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So, yeah, I mean, I think for us, there was some challenges. And we had a great first year. Love NCF. They're great partners today.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of folks that they weren't the perfect fit for who still wanted to be a part of this generous community. And so we wanted to be, we felt like we couldn't be faithful to our NCF commitments and grow this other community of people who might have a fund with Vanguard or Schwab. Um, and so, and also just to have zero transactional backbone to really be able to say, how can we help and not have it, there's other ways to help and be that connector
Yeah.
in this space.
And not driving lots of people to one different DAF, one specific DAF, but saying we can work with whoever, however. It's more about the purpose than it is the mechanism.
For sure. That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
So I was looking at your website. Tell me about the events and that sort of thing that you have. Give us some more boots in the ground. What does your day to day look like, and how do you guys impact and have even set up the venues to have these conversations? How does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're in a bunch of different cities: New York, Philadelphia, Birmingham, Huntsville, Nashville, San Antonio, and
Yeah,
launching in Tampa right now. And so for our team, there's this mix of, event hosting. At least once a month, we're either hosting a larger event that is cause driven, like I mentioned, or topic driven. We just did one in New York City about artificial intelligence, right? And how that is intersecting every aspect of our world, including the charitable world, and how different organizations are leveraging it, how to think about it, maybe from a Christian perspective in a healthy way.
yeah,
And so we are again getting people in a room to have these great conversations together, to explore things, to connect to each other. But we're also hosting dinners, intimate dinners that basically ask two questions about, hey, who or what inspires your generosity? And then maybe what fears or concerns do you have about giving, right? And these are folks who, those are simple questions, but they tend to unlock a lot in terms of passions, family of origin, relationship with money, and people leave full, right? They just leave feeling like they're not the only ones who don't have it all figured out.
yeah.
They learned some things. They were inspired by different people's stories. Usually, these folks are really successful, and they have way more of a story than we would ever imagine, based on their LinkedIn, right? So the stuff that isn't on LinkedIn is sometimes the gold, right? So
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really getting into relationship. Let's get past the persona. Let's get into the person. Let's know
well,
the person.
it's the why, right? It's the why that matters. And I think whether you're talking to a nonprofit leader and you want to hear not just their website stats, but why do they wake up every day caring for that specific population? Why are they sacrificing? Why are they out there on the field raising money to change that community? Where did that start? And often that's the connection that leads to a dynamic relationship between a giver and an organization, right?
Yeah,
There's the impact side, which really matters. But I think getting underneath, and that's what connects peers together, and that's the sticky part, right? That's what we want. We don't want some, you know, leaders change, but if we can get relationships to multiply generosity for decades, that starts to really, make the big difference.
that's fascinating. So, are you specifically getting groups of givers together and encouraging them, or are you bringing in organizations to talk to those givers? Like, is it a matching? Do you have like a matching motivation, or is it really we want to encourage people to give? And here's lots of ministries you could give to.
It's a little bit of both, right? So there we do the smaller groups where it's just givers, and we host different trips where it's typically just givers when we're like doing the fly fishing trips and things like that. But very often we are bringing in nonprofits, and for them it is either, but there's never an ask, right? So there's no voice in the back of your head going, hey, is this a $500 night or a $5,000 night? I guess I feel like I need to write a check. We're trying to strip that thinking away so people can just lean in and be curious. Right? And then the next day, they'll tell us, hey, I want to hear from IJM, or I want to hear from Restore. And, then we give their information to the nonprofit. Now it's on them to start building that relationship. We want to be the table setter,
Yeah,
or the opportunity broker, not the middleman. We want that relationship to thrive.
I love that. So, tell me a little bit more about you. You said you've got a great family. You guys like to be outdoors a lot. Tell me a little bit more about your family.
Yeah, no, married 27 years to Lori. Could not do it without her for sure. I have a son in college as a freshman, and then a 16-year-old who's a junior in high school. So we're here in Connecticut. They're kind of lacrosse nuts. The one is playing in college, the other's on his way to, and so we're just chasing them around a lot,
I love
and just love adventure, love getting up in the mountains and skiing, enjoying New England and hitting the beach in the summer. So they're a lot of fun. They
it.
make me feel old though.
Yeah, in New England has everything within striking distance. I mean, you've got history, you've got beach, you've got mountains. This year, you and I were talking earlier about
Yeah,
snow
yeah,
skiing,
yeah.
and New England had the snow this year. The mountains, the Rocky Mountains
Yes.
didn't have snow.
Yes.
So yeah, it's
We
such a
did not take enough advantage, but no, New England underrated for sure. Underrated for sure. It's spectacular, and we're
we
glad that winter is fading now for us. So
yeah, we love it up there, but there's definitely a season that's kind of tough to be up there. January, February, and some of March, it can be pretty chilly.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Great. So tell us, you mentioned a minute ago, tell us at whatever level you want to tell us, after years at Young Life, your candle blew out there. You ran out of steam. Give us a little bit of that story if you're willing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think it was with all the best intentions, right? And Young Life, I went back and worked for Young Life again, still a donor and a huge fan.
Yeah.
But for me, in the way that I was wired, I think the things that made me successful in my 20s, right? Showing up, saying yes, pouring out, it cost me a lot as I was approaching 40, right? As I moved more into leadership and supervision, this Enneagram 2 approach to life was just, didn't know really how to take good care of myself. Thought that, hey, it's all about giving, it's all about showing up. And, but it's one thing when you're kind of carrying high school and college, problems on your shoulders a little bit. It's another thing when it's mortgages and marriages, right? And you're supervising adults and now you're dealing with a bigger budget and bigger challenges.
Yeah.
And, there are some other crises that I walked into as a leader. And I think I just learned the value of coaching and having the right mentors in your life who can speak truth and not just push you to the next mountain and say, keep climb the next one, climb the next one. I think, I was not good at taking care of my own soul.
Yeah.
And I was probably overly concerned with everybody else's. And so that was a big paradigm shift for me. And I had to learn the hard way. And
Yeah.
so I kind of stuff was coming through the cracks. I was more tired, hit limits I never knew I had.
Yeah.
And so, we hit pause on that.
Yeah.
And so it probably has informed a lot of the next, decade of life and ministry for sure, in the way that I care for others and lead others.
Yeah. I have a pastor, a good friend of mine. We laugh. He used to say 20 years ago, he doesn't say anymore. He used to say, I want to live my life in such a way that death is a release. Like I get to death and I'm just spent. And I talked to him a year ago and he said, that was stupid. He's like, man, you have to care.
Yes,
You
yes,
have to care for your
yes.
soul. And
Yeah.
I'm a follower of Christ as well. So as you look at scripture, like Christ never said just go, just white knuckle this thing. Go, go, go. Like there was a lot of downtime. There's a lot of meals, a lot of conversations. And soul care, like you said, Tim, is just critical. What are some ways or some tools that if someone is watching this and is at that point of going, I am just done. I have no more gas in the tank. What are some ways that they can engage someone or another ministry for some soul care, some help in that area? What'd you find?
Yeah, well, first I'll give some triggers, right? So I think the danger is when you don't have any room as a life giver to give life, right? When you don't have room in your head, your heart, or your calendar, that's a problem because then opportunities start to feel like an attack, right? One more thing. Somebody just wants more from me. When we were designed and called to give, right? That's a problem, right? So I think it starts with your relationship with rest. Are you just resting from work, or do you actually work from a place of rest? Do you have a strategy? Are you practicing Sabbath? If you are, someone of faith, I think those practices really matter. And just I think we're a whole person, right? I think especially for those of us, our formation maybe happened in the '90s when it was that full go.
Yeah.
We kind of compartmentalized everything and we don't listen to our bodies well. And I think our bodies really do inform how our soul is really doing, right? It's
Yeah.
not about knowledge and learning and doing as much as it is about being
Yeah.
and our, being able to be present and not just thinking about the next thing. And like when anxiety becomes fuel,
Yeah.
for life, that is a path to that deep fatigue that a vacation does not solve. And so I think for me, that real rest, those rhythms are key. And having a community of support that reinforces that, right? Having, how you, if you have the potential to choose a supervisor, make sure that you're having active conversations about what health looks like. So
Yeah.
I think that those are things that I've seen, be helpful. Um, and I think your relationship with the Lord, right? Knowing that our identity is not about performance and production.
Yeah.
I think those things again, they sound simple, but it took me a long time to start to
Profound.
figure out.
It's
So
profound. Yeah. You know what you said about Sabbath, I could not agree anymore. We rest every Saturday, and I accomplish nothing, and that's been a part of our life for the last 20 years, 19 years, and
Amazing.
it is it's something else you kind of hinted at, but relationship, leadership can be so isolating, can be so scary, can feel like, man, I know a lot of people, but no one knows me, no one's invested. Particularly pastors feel this way a lot of times. They feel like they can't be honest with anybody because then people will know they're not perfect. But did you find that friendships are something that really sustained you and are helping you today or have helped you over the last few decades?
I think so. And that's been some of the gift of this work in Generous Life, to be honest. The trips, I had to learn not just to be the host, but to let myself participate. When we're fly fishing, and I'm not a great sportsman,
You're
right?
not just a leader then. You need to actually be a
Yes.
fisher then. Yeah.
Right. And I have to trust that the Lord is going to do what he's going to do, and it's not about me fine tuning every little thing. And
Yeah.
that has been so much freedom. And I think has led to more success, to be honest, right? That I'm not, when I was a coach and coaching sports early in my 20s, I could live and die with every point.
Yeah.
That makes for a very long season, and I think that perspective, really kind of moving away from that was helpful. And and I think even with leaders, I think for pastors, what I've seen in this kind of generosity thinking and thinking about abundance is so many people, especially pastors, haven't dealt with their own relationship with money, haven't dealt with their story,
Yeah.
and it is a powerful thing. And so I think, one of the things that we are doing is introducing the work of generous giving and others to more churches. And the hope is the whole community deals with their money story and begins to approach generosity biblically. But it starts often with pastors, maybe letting the power dynamics of wealth in their church community start to break down.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's something I've seen be really effective.
That's great. So tell me a little about your team. You've got a great team at Generous Life. Tell me operations, and then I want to talk a little bit about my company. What does your team look like? How are they advancing the mission of Generous Life?
So we've got an amazing team. I've got a COO, Carrie Parker, incredible leader, and we just brought on someone to work side by side with her as a director of operations and hospitality, Gina Waltermeyer. That team is really taking care of the day-to-day work, making sure that it's excellent, and making sure that when our guests connect, that it is a beautiful space that has been well thought out long before they got there. Right? We have a CFO who's fractional, Landon Eckhart, incredible leader. And, we had some work to do. We had to get under the hood hard that first year and just kind of get this thing ready to grow. And so that's been really, really critical for our growth and integrating a new CRM and all this stuff that I know you guys are really good at. So I think that's kind of our leadership team. And then we have remote admins
Yeah.
who support our team. And then we have field directors in all our markets in our
Okay.
cities. So, yeah.
That's great. And those markets, 6 or 8 different markets, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. And so we've got full-time people in New York, Philly, and Alabama. We're looking right now in Tampa and Nashville and kind of restructuring in a partnership in San Antonio. So it's, the relationship is constantly kind of evolving, and we've
Yeah.
got some new cities kind of starting to come online in conversation right now, but we are mostly focused on being a healthy organization that's ready to grow.
Yeah.
And then I think the growth is going to come in the next couple of years.
That's awesome. So as you were mentioning, the company that I work with, Accordis, we're a back office for organizations like Generous Life. We don't work with you now, Tim, but anybody who's watching this, if you're running a nonprofit and maybe you are running out of bandwidth, maybe you are saying, man, at the end of the day, at the end of these big events we're having, I go back and you manually start typing in the donations and you're trying to send out all the receipts the next day. We can take all that work off your plate. So if you're running a nonprofit and you need some more bandwidth, hit us up at Accordis. Hop on the call with me or one of my team members, and we can talk through how we could support you on the back office side of things. Tim, tell me a little bit about what your dream is 5 years from now and 10 years from now with Generous Life.
Yeah, I'll start with 10. In 10 years, we want to be in 100 communities,
Okay.
connecting a national, if not global network of Christian givers, right? And to change lives and change the world, right? Locally and globally. And I think in 5 years, we want to be, in kind of 30 to 40 communities, but having learned what it will take to get to that 100 vision and having built the board and the organization in a robust way to allow for that to be healthy, right? Because again, like we are committed to being able to pour into our communities and pour into leaders without without crushing our people, right? And so that's why I really believe in the work of Cordis and your vision, because it is so critical to have that kind of leadership be part of your team. That's where we're headed.
Tim, I love the work you're doing. Generous Life is hitting it out of the park. Excited to see you guys as you grow. And if anyone wants to connect with you on the generosity side, or if you're a nonprofit leader, just want to connect with Tim to talk about how to lead a nonprofit, I'm sure you'd be open to that conversation along the way.
Absolutely.
So to closing of
Absolutely.
this podcast, you'll see a link to Generous Life and also a link to Accorders. If you need us for anything, we're here to help great growing ministries and organizations like Generous Life. Tim, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, brother.
Have a good day.
You too.